Chapter 6 Attack Getting the Job Done. Congratulations! You've analyzed and strategized, and now you are ready to put on some comfortable clothes, roll up your sleeves, and begin the rewarding experience of transforming your space. Of course, even this stage requires a methodical approach. To remember the steps of the attack phase, think of the word space. It breaks down as follows. S. Sort. P. Purge. A. Assign a home. C. Containerize. E. Equalize. Space. The key to succeeding with the space formula is to do every one of the steps, and most important, do them in order. Many of the actions may be familiar to you, but my guess is in the past you only did some of them, and you may have done them out of sequence. For example, when you felt ready to get organized in the past, you probably started either by purging, I'm going to get rid of as much of this junk as I can, or by containerizing, I'm going shopping for containers and bins to get myself organized. Done out of sequence, these actions are highly ineffective because you do not yet have enough information gathered to make the right decisions. Now, let's look at each critical step and how it works. 1. Sort. If your space is disorganized, you undoubtedly have many related items scattered in multiple locations. Not only does this make it hard to find them, it makes it almost impossible to quantify what you really have. So, here's where you go through each possession and create a sense of order. It is crucial that you handle everything. Pick up every item of clothing, piece of paper, or collectible and evaluate it individually, asking yourself these questions. Do I use this? Do I love this? Does this make or cost me money? What category does this belong in? Don't put off or ignore those large piles of stuff in the corners or scattered pockets of clutter that seem too intimidating. Skipping them or postponing them to some other time will prevent you from seeing the big picture before you set up your system and result in an unsatisfying feeling of incompletion, which will inevitably cause your system to unravel. As you sort, focus on the following. Identify what is important to you. Focus on those items you currently use, love, and or that make money, not those that used to be important to you or might be important to you someday. This task will be much easier as a result of the questions you answered in the analyze phase. Group similar items. As you identify the important items you want to keep, place them on the floor or another surface in related categories that reflect your associations, not someone else's. They only have to make sense to you. This is one of the keys of organizing from the inside out, to design a system that is intuitive and natural to you so that you can find things and put them away again without too much thought. Using seasonings as an example, some people might group allspice and basil together because they think alphabetically. Others might group by flavor, basil with oregano, marjoram and thyme, allspice with cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and vanilla. Before we carry on here on pages 70 and 71, we have a text block. Julie's Law of Visible Dramatic Results. There is nothing more frustrating or disheartening about sorting than investing hours and hours of effort but seeing absolutely no improvement in your space. This kind of discouraging experience is really the result of poor organizing techniques, which are easily fixable. Use the following sorting secrets of a professional organizer to make sure you see visible, dramatic results each time you work. The visual display of your progress will keep you inspired and driven, determined to make it to the finish line. Attack what's visible first. Remember those marathon weekends I spent as a teenager? A classic mistake I made was deciding to attack the invisible clutter, the stuff inside drawers, cabinets, and closets, before tackling the stuff I could see. It's a natural impulse because you think you must immediately make room for all the stuff that's been left out in the open. But working that way is a mistake because instead of shrinking, the clutter grows instantly, and you're discouraged by the feeling that you're not making much headway, which, in fact, you aren't. Furthermore, it's quite likely that the invisible stuff is old, even archaic, while the visible stuff is more active and relevant to you. Use your initial burst of enthusiasm and energy to organize the stuff that has the most meaning and impact on your life. Leave the invisible clutter till later. Quick sort for quick results. Quick sort is a tactic designed to get and keep you moving through your stuff swiftly because you don't belabor your decisions about what to keep and what to toss, which just slows the process down and makes it grueling. You can't allow yourself to get sidetracked. Your focus should be on identifying items and categorizing them. If a decision to toss something comes to you easily, and many will, great. If not, move on. I'll give you some tips on making decisions quickly and easily later on. As for those incomplete projects, unanswered phone messages, and unread articles you discover, now is not the time to do them. Place all unfinished to-dos in a separate box or file folder labeled Action, and schedule a separate appointment with yourself to deal with them. Remember, this is a sorting session, not a catch-up session. If you stay focused on your sorting task, you will see results before you know it. Avoid zigzag organizing. Most people make the mistake of scattering their organizing efforts, working back and forth between several rooms at once. This is what I call zigzag organizing, a method that is guaranteed to provide the minimum results in the maximum time. You start with a drawer, find a book inside that belongs elsewhere, go to the bookcase, and discover the shelves are so messy there is no place for the book. So you abandon the drawer and start organizing the bookcase. Then you find some stray papers on the bookshelves that really belong in your filing system. But of course, the filing system is a wreck, so you abandon the drawer and the bookshelves and start organizing the filing system. Before you know it, you've started 5, 6, 7 different areas, finished none, and quit in despair. The opposite of zigzag organizing is to work one section at a time. That means completing one room before moving on to the next, and within each room, tackling the space one section at a time. Decide up front which corner of the room you want to serve as the launch pad for your organizing efforts, and complete that section before moving on to the next. If you find something that belongs elsewhere, just put it in the doorway for now, and take care of it at the end of your organizing session. Working one section at a time allows you to see progress. It also gives you logical places to take breaks to recoup your energy and determination. If you need a rest, you can say, "Okay, I'll finish this corner, and then go get a cup of coffee." When you come back to the room, the first thing you'll see is that beautifully organized section, which will encourage you to move on to the next section and the next. Now, back to the importance of space. About grouping similar items. Just keep categories as broad as possible so they'll be easy to remember, and you'll have the least number of places to look when you start assigning items a home. For example, if you think according to flavor, try grouping your seasonings into just 2 categories, sweet and savory. Unless you're a master chef and have huge numbers of flavored seasonings, breaking your savory seasonings down into subcategories, leafy herbs, powdered herbs, Italian, Chinese, and Spanish flavors, etc., would be overkill, making it both confusing and too time-consuming to put things back in their proper place. 2. Purge. Here's where you decide what stuff to get rid of and how. You will always have several choices: toss, give away, sell, put elsewhere, store. Have appropriately labeled boxes on hand throughout the attack process to sort your discards into. If you're the type of person who is traumatized or threatened by the thought of having to get rid of anything, remember that you don't have to purge anything right now. Just organize everything you've got so that it's finally accessible. Once you've lived with that satisfying experience for a while, you can decide later on if you want to lighten the load. Even those of you who are ready to start getting rid of stuff may find it a difficult process. Here are some tips to make it easier. Some items to toss, those I call no-brainers, will be obvious. These are items that are in such bad shape and so irrelevant to your life right now that you couldn't or wouldn't use them if you wanted to. For example, rusty nails, dried up nail polish, 6-month-old newspapers. Each chapter in Part 3 will include a no-brainer toss list to get you started. Other items may pose tougher choices. For example, once you've consolidated them into the sorting process, you may find you have too much stuff in a single category. For example, 16 pairs of running shoes, even though you only use 3. In the interest of saving storage space and simplifying the retrieval process, pick only your favorites and give the rest the boot. You may also discover it difficult to part with certain items because you or someone spent good money on them even though they're never used. It could be an impulsively purchased piece of clothing, an expensive piece of art you don't like anymore, a fancy organizing gadget that never worked, or a gift someone gave you that you already have or just don't want. How do you motivate yourself to part with these things? Think about what you'll gain in return. Space for the things you really use and love. Time saved searching through all that unused clutter to get at what's really important to you. Money. It's costing you to house and maintain these items. Giving them away or selling them could yield a tax deduction or put some extra dollars in your pocket. Satisfaction. Share the items you no longer use. Surely there are people in the world who could use them. To decide what to do with those discards not consigned to the trash, consider the following options. Adopt a charity. Pick an organization that is meaningful to you and will pick up the stuff if you don't have the time or transportation to get it there yourself. Adopt a friend. You may feel better knowing your cast-offs will be going to someone familiar, a close pal, acquaintance, neighbor, housekeeper, who would love to have them. Have a tag sale or sell through a consignment shop. Put it into storage. Getting unused things out of your home or office into off-site storage will allow you to experience clutter-free living without the trauma of parting with them permanently. Rates are not high, and some companies, like Public Storage, offer pickup and delivery service. They bring a container to your door, you fill it, and they whisk it away. Couldn't be more convenient. Once it is off-site, you may even find it easier to decide what to keep long-term. 3. Assign a home. Now it's time to take all the items you're keeping and decide precisely where, within each zone, you're going to store them. Which shelf, which drawer, which side of the bed. If you weren't able to do so before, now is the time to move the furniture around to see how your zone design looks and if your available storage units will accommodate everything you want to put in them. Avoid being vague and indecisive about where to put items by applying the Select One rule of giving each item a single, consistent home. This is key to trusting your system. Use the following guidelines in assigning homes. Appropriate sizing. Match the size and number of the items to the size of the storage unit to avoid wasting or taking up too much space. For example, use a shallow drawer for belts, a deep one for sweaters. Single function storage. Don't mix categories within a storage unit. It makes retrieval too complicated. For example, when possible, put t-shirts in one drawer and jeans in another, rather than putting both in the same drawer. Logical sequencing. Position similar groups of items near each other. Again, follow your own associations. In your dresser, for example, you might place workout clothes and swimsuits in drawers next to each other because they are both related to fitness. Accessibility. Make it easy to retrieve and put back frequently used items by not jamming too many things in drawers or stacking them on shelves too high to reach. Safety. Don't store anything that is heavy or fragile too high in a storage unit. Injury or breakage could occur as you attempt to retrieve or put it back. For the same reason, Don't jam fragile items too close to each other on a shelf or in a drawer. If you have children in the house, be sure to place items that could harm them out of reach or behind locked doors. As you put items away in their assigned homes, you may discover you don't have enough storage space for everything. Your options are either to reevaluate and purge some more, get rid of or relocate all those maybes, or increase storage room. There are often hidden pockets of storage space that can be found, and ways to make the most of every square inch inside those closets and cabinets. Each chapter in Part 3 will provide numerous tips for stretching space. Before we carry on to number 4, containerize, let's look at the text section on page 75. Keeping yourself motivated. Somewhere along the way, you're bound to get tired of making decisions, distracted, or feel the tug of other activities pulling you away. It's happened to all of us. Give yourself tools to see you through these tough spots. Select one or more of the following options. Post your goals. Track your answers to the 4th analyze question. Why do I want to get organized? On the wall of the room you're working in. When you feel yourself starting to become overwhelmed by what you've gotten yourself into, reread your answers to get the impetus to press on. Use before and after photos. Take a snapshot of the space you're going to organize and tack it to the wall next to your goals. It will spur you on. Then take another snapshot of the same space when you're finished and tack it up next to the before photo. Allow yourself to wallow in the satisfaction of having completed a job well. Reward yourself along the way. Think about activities that you enjoy the most and plan to dole these out as rewards when you complete various milestones along the way. Then, as you are working, you can say to yourself, when I finish this corner, I'll make reservations to see a show, or as soon as I finish this desktop, I'll take a walk for some fresh air. But be careful not to snatch your reward away when it's due by saying, I'm on a roll, I'll just keep working. Honor the bargain you've made by actually giving yourself what you've promised. Make it fun. If music will give you the energy to keep working, select some tapes or CDs ahead of time, or decide which radio station you want to listen to. Play games with yourself to stay motivated. Say, okay, by the time this song is over, I will have finished this bookshelf. Do one shelf per song, or one section of the room per CD. And don't get down on yourself if you haven't finished that shelf by the end of the song. Just finish it by the next. Work with a buddy. Sure, misery loves company. But who, you ask, would want to join you in your misery? Make arrangements to team with a colleague or a friend who is also struggling with a disorganization problem. Working together will actually make the job go smoother and faster, and make it be more enjoyable. You'll have somebody to bounce ideas off who can offer an objective viewpoint and keep you focused on the job at hand when you start falling prey to self-criticism. How could I let things get so out of hand? Arrange to trade weekends and help each other out. You'll be amazed at how much you can accomplish working together and how rewarding the whole experience will be. Back to number 4. Containerize. Containers make it easy to keep your categories of items grouped and separated within their assigned homes so that retrieval, cleanup, and maintenance are a breeze. Imagine a linen closet, for example. You've spent hours sorting and purging the contents and now have piles of items grouped by category: dental stuff, soaps, hair care, first aid, extra paper goods. As you loosely place these groups of items on your shelves, it will be hard to tell where one category leaves off and the next begins. But if you put each group into a plastic basket and label your baskets on the shelves, retrieval and return will be a snap, as will cleaning the shelves. Just remove the baskets, wipe the shelves off, then return the baskets. Try doing that as easily with 80 loose bottles, jars, and boxes. Another big benefit of containerizing is that it helps limit how much you accumulate in any given category. You can only save as much as the container will hold. Finally, and most important, containerizing is where you can really get creative and have fun, infusing your system with your personal style. Select appropriate containers. What to look for? Aesthetics. Choose containers that you love. They should be delightful to use and blend attractively with the decor you've chosen for your space, whether it's shabby chic, country cozy, or high-tech steel. Sturdiness. Don't be tempted to economize. Your containers must be tough enough to withstand repeated use. If they fall apart, break, or feel flimsy, you'll stop using them. Manageability. Containers should be easy to handle. If you'll be storing a lot of items in them, consider their weight when full. Size. Make sure they are a proper fit for the number of items you will be storing without overcrowding. Consider leaving a little room for growth, but not much. Prepare your shopping list. To avoid having to make 50 trips to the store, be sure to plan ahead. Start by making a complete shopping list of all the containers you'll need. I like to organize my shopping list by zone right into my original zone planning sheet, so that when I'm at the store or rummaging in the attic, I can see exactly how I plan to use each container in case I need to find a substitute. To ensure you buy the right size containers, measure before you go shopping. There is nothing more aggravating, not to mention costly and time-consuming, than discovering that the drawer dividers you bought are 1/4 of an inch taller than the drawers they're supposed to go in. Measure the height, width, and depth, and count the number of items to be stored to know what size container you will need. Measure the height, width, and depth of each space a container will go in to know what will fit. For example, measure the shelf or drawer your basket must fit into. Measure the actual containers in the store itself to be sure they'll fit by taking along a tape measure for added insurance. And don't forget your shopping list. Labeling. Once you've got all your containers installed, it's time to label them. Labeling is not just for kids. It ensures that things get put back where they belong, making cleanup a quick, painless, and mindless activity. Labeling is especially important if others will be sharing your space to make sure things are consistently put back where they belong. On page 77, we have a sample container list. The zone, reading, supplies contain books, 200. No storage unit, container needed, bookshelves, 30 inches by 70 inches. Zone, TV and music. Supplies, 65 videos and 200 CDs. Storage unit, wall unit. Container needed, drawer dividers, CD tower, 12 inch by 4 inch. Zone, napping. Supplies, quilt and pillows. Container needed, a storage ottoman, 27 inches by 21 inches. Depending what you're labeling, you can choose to label in a highly visible or more subtle manner. For example, if the container will go inside a medicine chest, filing cabinet, or storage cabinet, labeling the container itself is desirable. But if the container will be exposed to view, stored on an open shelf, for example, you might prefer to label the edge of the shelf or the surface the container will sit on rather than the container itself. Whichever method you use, it is critical that your labels are legible, neat, and attractive, and that they adhere. No one, not even you, will respect your labels if they look like chicken scratch or a doctor's prescription, or if they fall off. White labels with bold black lettering work best. You can write them by hand, but for best, easy-to-read results, use a label maker or a word processor. Each chapter in parts 3 and 4 will give special labeling hints keyed to the area it discusses. Voila, you're done. Well, almost. 5. Equalize. As you drive off in your car, you don't just set your steering wheel in one position and lock it in place until you get to your destination. One curve in the road could send you into a crash. Rather, you constantly, naturally monitor and make tiny adjustments to the steering wheel to equalize things so you're always heading straight. So it is with organizing. About 2 weeks after you've finished, make an appointment with yourself to evaluate how well your system has been working. Is everything as easy as you'd like it to be? Are you following your system? Do the zones and categories you set up work well for you? Are there any rough spots that a quick review of your needs assessment in Chapter 4 might help to iron out? Reevaluate again every couple of weeks thereafter until you're completely happy with your system. Once you've got a system that works totally, you need to integrate a daily and periodic maintenance program into your lifestyle so that it becomes a matter of routine. Keep it simple. If your maintenance program is too time-consuming and complex, you won't follow it. Clean up and put things back at the end of each day. Regardless of how messy your space gets in the course of the day, this will only take a few minutes because everything now has a logical, accessible, and identifiable home. Never put off daily cleanup, or the clutter will build up and become formidable in no time. Some ongoing maintenance is also required to keep your system running smoothly. This involves applying small but highly effective maintenance tricks and techniques that can be fit into your daily routine without requiring much extra time. Parts 3 and 4 are full of such tips. Last but not least, periodic tune-ups are essential so your system will always keep up with any changes in your needs, goals, possessions, and priorities. Schedule appointments with yourself on the calendar at regular intervals to evaluate how your system is working. Make adjustments for any new items you've acquired. Purge old stuff that's no longer relevant, and even buy yourself a spiffy organizing gizmo you've been looking at to keep your system fun and engaging. These occasional facelifts will prevent you from getting tired of your system and abandoning it out of boredom. Each chapter in parts 3 and 4 includes a recommended schedule for maintenance. Skills for a lifetime. Like anything else worth doing, organizing takes time to master. You are bound to make mistakes and stumble along the way. Try not to panic or get angry with yourself. Just relax, work out the bugs, and simply get yourself back on track. Once you've mastered these skills, they'll last you forever because they're skills for life. That's their greatest value. You can apply them over and over again to almost any task. They will give you a lasting sense of security, personal identity, pride, and peace, a necessity in the increasingly complex, fast-paced, and rapidly changing world of today. Now that you've learned the process for getting organized from the inside out, let's start building on it by putting what you've learned into practice.